All right, today is Friday, and it is December 11th, 2 weeks until Christmas, and we're like in the sixth day of Hanukkah, so lots of good, clean fun. I am joined today, it's Freehands Friday, number 67, and we're talking about small mixers today. And I'm joined by Boaz, Manishma, and Kevin. That man.
Hello, bonjour.
And Rob, also up in Canada. Glad you're here.
Hey.
And I'm Gene Perry, in case you didn't know that by now. So for the 17 people who do watch this video, you probably all know, right? Like from Freehands Academy, anyway, just like our stick camp, you know. Welcome. We're glad you're here. It's Friday. Woohoo! Happy Freehands Friday, and all the fun we'll have today. So today, what I'll do is I'll share up my screen really quickly here, and maybe what I can do is I can cut and paste this information into the chat so you guys can see it, and at least have it while I am looking at it. So we'll grab all of this, and for those of you viewing this kind of after the fact, you'll be able to see this. But what I will do is I will share my screen right now and just show you really quickly what we are looking at. So we are looking at this right here. So we're going to look at 6 small mixers. Now, one of these mixers I currently own. I've owned 2 of these mixers, and the other 2 mixers I've kind of included just as kind of a comparison, right? So I've included some more kind of low-cost mixers. Now, in each case, so that we have kind of a center or for comparison, I've included a link for Guitar Center to compare the price with, right? So there's, you know, from where we sit, it might be different in your guys' neck of the woods in Canada or in Israel, but generally we have Sweetwater, we have Guitar Center, and we have Musician's Friend. And those are the 3 big ones. Do you guys have stores that you like to buy from or places online that you generally shop on outside of eBay?
We have Long and McQuaid in Canada, so they have, I think they've got stores across Canada. That's the big one, anyway.
Okay. What was it called, Rob?
Long and McQuaid.
Oh, Long and McQuaid. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have Long and McQuaid in the States?
It's totally dominated by Sweetwater, Musician's Friend, and Guitar Center. Those are like the 3 big ones. And then, you know, so there's like, you know, kind of one-offs like Sam Ash and stuff like that that do some business, but really those 3 kind of own. Those are the big 3. What about you, Abbas? From where is there a place where you shop online for gear?
The Behringer is definitely sold here in Israel. I'm not sure about the others. Well, Yamaha, I guess we have some kind of, not this one, we might have other Yamaha models and Mackie also. I'm not sure about the first one, Alto, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Well, then I suppose what I can do is at least we can compare the costs in U.S. and just have kind of a relative cost. What I did want to do is have like 3 different vendors and be comparing these costs and whatnot. So for starters, what we'll do is that the whole idea today, like today it's all about mixers, right? So we're looking at small, like inexpensive mixers. And I suppose before we go any further, I would probably ask you guys, have you done any sort of, or have you used a mixer before? And if so, have you used a mixer with the Chapman Stick?
No.
No. Okay.
I actually don't know why. That's my big question here. Why do you use mixers?
Okay. You're sideways. You know that, right?
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's happening.
Too much to drink there, Kevin.
What was your mixed drink, Kev? What have you got there?
It's a Crown Royal and Coke.
All right. And you're drinking.
My go-to drink.
Can you seriously not do anything about that? You are like sideways. Like it's kind of bugging.
Hang on.
All right. So let me ask you, Rob and Boaz, before we answer that question from Kevin, which we will answer. There you go. Have you guys used mixers, and if so, have you used them with a stick?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got this is my layout. It's kind of hard to see, but there's my it's got a Behringer Xenix or something, but it's a 1202. So it's got I think it's got a few more channels than the one that you had online.
Right.
but I've got two keyboards hooked up into it, and then I've got my interface from my computer. That's where my stick goes into, and it goes into the back of that as well. So
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so good to know. Now, do you anticipate using that with your stick at all? Do you have some channels free for your stick there?
I need to get another mixer, I think, because I'm kind of running out of space. I have to pull stuff out and put stuff in. So,
I see.
but yeah, I mean, it works great for my stick right now. I
Okay.
just have to. I can't use other things.
We need a bigger mixer.
I do need a bigger mixer for what
Okay.
I
All
do.
right. Gotcha. What about you, boys?
Well, I'm not using right now, as I said. Well, I said before the recording. I'm using lately the Cube EX, which doesn't really need a mixer. But later, I also got the Loop Station RC 300 by
Oh,
Boss, which it has. I didn't know about it. It has 4 outputs,
wow.
and yeah, I mean you can actually mix between different channels. So it give me some ideas about using a mixer.
So a question on the loop station, because I've seen Don use this with like he's very proficient with it, and it's definitely like integrated as part of like the Don Shift sound. Can you assign separate outputs to different loops?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay.
I'm still learning about it, but yes, you can learn the many options which I didn't know about this loop stations. Each output can be assigned to different outputs. Well, actually, either the main outputs, the sub outputs, or both.
I see.
So it gives you many options of what you
Wow.
can actually place around if you have
Yeah.
four
Yeah.
speakers.
That is cool. So like using the looper as a mixer. So you can have like powered speakers or amplifiers
Yeah,
and be having different loops going on in different speakers. Wow, it's
yeah,
like I hadn't really thought about that. I guess
yeah.
everyone does it
Three
differently.
different channels plus your dry signal.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, let's. It's fun to hear how it's used in different ways, right? And like I don't know about you guys, but it's like it always seems I need like more gear, right, Rob? So like
Yeah,
a new time for a new mixer, right? Which is great because on eBay, it's been my experience, you can take about a 10% loss and then go out and get basically, um, this piece of gear that you're after, and so long as you're willing to kind of swap it out. I've had that luck with, at least with pedals, and certainly in the immediate past. So let me revisit the question, and that is why would you need a mixer? And so my thought is this. For me, so I stopped using the HD500X, which I really liked, and you could basically run that into like a powered speaker or an amplifier, and it kind of did everything there. But I don't want to do that now. I'm using independent effects because I just wasn't quite as I just wasn't dialed in to getting the sounds and dealing with the signal processing and all the things that come along with the HD500. It was over my head. I was in over my head. So I started to resort to independent pedals. And when I started to do that, I started to want to get some separation with my bass and my melody side. So here's how you can use a mixer. So use case number one is that you go to like a stick seminar or a stick event and you plug your stick into it and you plug your headphones in. And I saw Robin Shima Costin doing this at one of the event I went back to in like 2010 or something like that with Tom and Bob, and it was great. It was very effective, and it was like a little 5-channel Behringer. It was very small, and it was like the perfect application for it. So you've got volume for each. You've got volume for each side. You can have a little EQ, and you've got your headset. So that's kind of good. It's like a kind of like a portable amplifier. Now, another application, and Rob, you might be doing this, is that you can use it for recording. So you're going direct into your mixer, and maybe you have a USB that you can then port into your laptop or digital workstation, and then record it. Right now, you can do that. The HD500X has that built into it, and Rob Martino's done that, and gets great sound using that direct sound. Another application of a mixer is in a live situation where you don't want to have two amplifiers, right? So you run everything into a mixer, and then you've got maybe a separate amp for your bass side and a separate amp for your melody side. So then what you can do is you can actually pan one to the right side, and that it could be your bass side, and that goes to your bass amp, and you pan one to the left side, and that's your guitar amp, right? And now you've got like basically 2 amps. You can control the EQ from your mixer. Maybe you've got onboard effects, or maybe you've got like an auxiliary out so you can add reverb to it. So there's all kinds of different applications for using a mixer with the Chapman Stick, which is an option to using an amplifier, or just going straight into an amp, or a keyboard amp, which is also a great option, right? I mean, like, just kind of simple and quick. You start to get into some things with impedance, with amplifiers, with keyboard amplifiers, because it's not expecting an instrument level signal. And Rob's not here, so we can't talk impedance, but like there's like 2 different kinds of line level. So other reasons you would want to use a mixer is just to consolidate the exact opposite of what we were just talking about. Whereas if you to the right and your melody side pushed to the left, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to have it right in the middle, right? So you've got your bass and your melody. It sounds like one instrument, but maybe you can EQ your bass side and your melody side differently. Or maybe you want to have external effects that are going through the mixer in an auxiliary out, and you want to adjust that level for for each side. Maybe you don't want the reverb on the bass side, that sort of thing. So there's a number of different applications for a mixer. Now, also what I've found is that if I'm playing like gigs for the city, or I'm doing like an actual event where I am the entertainment, is then I'll take my laptop with me, and I'll play music in between my sets. So I'll put on whatever it is that people want to hear. You kind of suss it out. Is it like a Barney Kessel crowd? Is it a Sade crowd? Like, right? Is it like an older crowd? Do they want to hear like Sting? Or can I play what I want to play? Can I play like Flaming Lips, or something like a little more outrageous and fun? So that's another kind of great application for a mixer. So now I've got RCAs that I'm running in, and I'm running a stereo signal, and I'm piping music out in between my sets. Another application is sometimes when I play out with Gina, right, she'll have hand percussion, and like in any sort of live situation, right, the first thing to go is like the congas. Like, you're going to lose them. You need a really strong mic on the congas so that you can really hear the sound of the skin, the hand on the skin, and all the technique that's being applied there. And conga players will be the first person in any sort of percussion ensemble to tell you to turn down, right? Because I can hear the cowbell, and I can hear the guitar and the bass, and you guys have amps, and I don't have amps. So I have like additional inputs, or actually I should say I had additional inputs that I was then able to mic Gina through. Now I only have 1 additional input, but that's enough. So here are a number of different opportunities to use a mixer. So now, Rob, I see that you have kind of a home studio there. How would you use a mixer, or how do you anticipate using a mixer with the Chapman Stick?
Well, I do a lot of keyboard stuff at the same time, so that's why I need the extra channels, right? I want to get some effects, like I want to get that big sky, but I don't know how that's if that has to go in line, or if that can go out separately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I'd like to know if there's a way to go melody side, bass side, both into one, or separate them so I get reverb on one but not on the other. So to me, that's probably a mixer solution, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it has been for me, right? But like you talk to a different stickist on a different day, right? All got different tunings, all got different woods, all got different string gauges, right? Like, and their effects pedals is not like volume pedal, compressor, chorus, distortion unit, delay. It's not like that ever, because then you've got the bass side, and then you've got, there's other kind of things going on. So yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, what I've found that I have to do is just buy it, and then like freak out with it for like a month or maybe 2, and if you can do it in less than 30 days, like you can get it back to whoever you bought it from. Usually they've got a deal where you can, as long as you get it back and it's in good shape, they'll take it, maybe minus a stocking fee or something like that, like 5% cost of shipping. And so for me, it's like the cost of kind of playing with it. I have the Big Sky, and I kind of use it in the application that you're talking about. So we'll take a look at my pedal board, and I can show you how I'm using a mixer, and maybe this will probably scare some people off, maybe inspire others, or maybe just create some like kind of talking points for other people about mixers. Now, Boaz, you said you used one in the past.
When I was playing guitar, just used it. Yeah, the Behringer with 8 tracks, and multi-effects inside, which I don't really use. It's just have presets. Just kind of nice to. I'm looking here at the pictures from Mallorca. I will find you what Guillermo Cides actually uses. Well, I can imitate you. How Guillermo chooses mixers.
Okay.
Just how he explained how he chooses mixer. Is it light? Okay, that's good for me.
I love it because
Yeah.
and I agree with that. I think that's
Like
a great.
tomatoes, like buying tomatoes. I'm looking for his mixer, which I can't really find those kind of mixer. I'm looking at the pictures. I gotta show you this because he actually has a mixer, a very small one, which has a preset in which you can actually choose a scene. If you play just by himself, just press the scene. It's ready for his mix. If you play in a situation about 5 or 6 stick players playing, he has this scene. So I couldn't find this mixer for sale anywhere.
Well, we can ask him. At some point we'll ask him. Maybe we'll have him come on and talk about that because that's another great application for a mixer is right. If you've got like if you're playing live and you're playing guitar and there's like a singer right and like like maybe you're the sound guy. Maybe you've got 2 powered speakers. It's like you can then provide more. You've got just more kind of opportunities to provide sound for people, right? Bass amp goes out. You can plug into the mixer, dial in some sound. You need and then there's a control room, option for a lot of these smaller mixers, which allows you to have kind of like a monitor mix. But let you finish what you were saying there, Boaz. Were you going to add something more about Guillermo's mixer?
I'm just looking for the picture. I have a picture of it.
Oh, okay.
Going through hundreds of pictures here while you're talking.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is let me do this. Let's look at some of the mixers that we'll be looking at, and then what we'll do is we can circle back if we find his. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just call up the sites for the 5 mixers that we're looking at. And then we'll talk through them. So the first one here, okay, so here's the criteria. The criteria is inexpensive and small. So what I've done is I've got 5 mixers here. One of the mixers is a 4-channel mixer. One of the mixers is a 10-channel mixer. And then 2 of the mixers are 6-channel mixers, and then one of them is an 8-channel mixer, but really it's a 6-channel mixer as well. So really we've got like 4, 6, 10, and then 2 more 6s. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen now, and we can take a look at this. Okay, here we go. That's infinity. Welcome to infinity. Okay. Here's the first one. So this is the Alto. This is the Alto ZMX X62 6-channel mixer, and I'll tell you, I had this one, and I really liked it. And the reason that I liked it is that it had 2 features that I was looking for, and that is that it had basically you can move it from left to right. So that means like if you've got something going into channel 1 here, right, you can pan it left or you can pan it right. Now these 2 rows of yellow knobs right here, there's one of those actually affects what's called a monitor output, and one of those affects an effects output. So the idea here is that you can have an external effect. You can have like a reverb unit, right? And so that allows you to run like reverb, and then you can adjust that level for each instrument that gets put in. So the other monitor setting allows you to actually run a separate output, and a lot of these mixers call it control room. So I don't know if I can zoom in on this, but if you look at these 2 outputs right here that I'm pointing to right here, these control room outputs can actually be used as a monitor. I'm sorry?
You can switch. There's a picture of the middle one from above.
Thank you. Here we go. Right. Okay, so let's look at the inputs really quickly. For starters, you've got two mic inputs right here, which also can be quarter-inch inputs. And I believe that you may be able to use TRS inputs on these. I can't recall. And then you've got these two kind of stereo inputs. And something to be aware of here is oftentimes, even when you plug in mono, you'll only come through the left side unless you're running a TRS cable here. So that caused a little confusion. So you've got 3 channels of EQ. When you figure the instrument comes in here, right, it then kind of moves through the mixer, and the last thing that you get right here is this kind of gain staging knob right here. So you've got 3 bands of EQ. You've got this auxiliary send, which allows you to send it into like a reverb unit, let's just say, or a compressor. And then you've got this unit right here, which actually allows you to adjust the monitor. And those levels can be adjusted here. And then you've got separate left and right outs for the control room right here, which can actually, so you can run a pair of monitors, right? So if you have 4 sets of speakers, right, you can use 2 of them as monitors for the band. Now, these controls right here basically control the send, where you send information for your effects. So you can send it and actually have it return in stereo. These inputs right here are for auxiliaries, so that would be something like where I would plug in like my laptop. So I'd take a mini jack into 2 RCAs, and then that would be, I would use that basically adjust the master with this aux in right here to adjust the level for that. So this is a very versatile mixer. The only complaint that I had about it was the frame was a little bit big, and so in my document here. This one was 10 by 6 by 15.1, so a little big for me. And the reason is, so I had a different set of requirements. So this is very versatile. It's $70, and if you look for these used out on Guitar Center or wherever it is that you're looking for, you can find them for $40.
Did you ever have any issues with the pot?
Sorry?
Did you ever have any issues with the pots getting all static?
I didn't have it that long, but I didn't have any. I had no issues with this mixer. It was so cheap. It was like I was a little bit discouraged because I was like, oh, it's gonna be cheap and it's gonna sound crappy. But I mean, we ran stick nights with this thing. So I was running, powered speakers. I had people going direct in through, lines 1 and 2, and then I had music going into the RCAs, and then I had a microphone for Gina's, or 2 stereo inputs for Gina's because she was playing a Trap Cat that night. So she had a stereo rig, and then I had another microphone. So it was pretty cool. It was like, man, and they call this a 6-channel mixer, right? But really what it is it's a 4-channel mixer with 2 channels that are stereo. So that's something, and Rob, you could probably tell me something about that. If you've looked at other mixers where they call it 8 channels, but it's really 6.
Well, I know the one I have here's got it's got some where they do that.
Okay, cool. So what I'll do is this is right, $70, hard to beat. This had all the features that I was looking for. Oh, and there's another kind of gain. There's another gain knob right here, so you can add gain to it. I found that you have to be very careful with how you do that. You have to find the right mix between gain and your line level down here at the end, because this will add actually unnecessary distortion, and not like the kind of wicked kind of Marshall Stack kind of distortion. It's nasty,
Well, the gain is actually used for mic, so not for line level.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and you can, that gets you in trouble. So let's look at the second one. So Rob, this is probably similar to one that you have, right?
Oh, mixers are very cheap in the United States.
Yeah, okay. I think that is the same one I have, except that I have a 1202.
Okay.
So I think that one has 8 inputs, but you can see that it's got level 3 and 4, 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
They're together. Mine are similar to that. So, but I have 4 XLR jacks in mine as opposed to that one that has 2.
I see.
But other than that, it's identical.
Okay.
The only thing I hate about it is there's no on-off switch on it. So when you plug your transformer in the back, it's on all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's a drag, and there's a lot of power units and compressors that are made that same way. So in this particular unit, same kind of loadout as the Xenix. It's got this, or same kind of loadout rather as the Alto. So it's got main outs right here, left and right. It's got control outs here. It's got a headphone jack, and then it's got basically an effects send. So it sends it in mono and returns it in stereo here. And so basically you can use this knob, that's this red one right here, which is the level of effect that you want. So what I would do is when I was using my Alto, I'd have just a little pedal reverb unit that I'd bring with me, and plug that in, plug it in mono, return it stereo, and then you can adjust each track how much you want. So maybe you want a lot if you're running your stick in here, or maybe you're running your braille board in here, right? And you're using the whole kind of active pickup option, because these have phantom power. This has phantom power. Phantom power is a little bit, I mean, I understand it conceptually, but I wouldn't be able to speak to it in detail. So anyways, the idea is that you could run either an XLR in or a 1/4 inch in, and then adjust your EQ, or you could adjust your effect level using these red knobs. So if you're using pedals, right, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But the thing is that if you have like even just one powered speaker and a Chapman stick, and right like a power strip, like you're in business, right? You just plug this in, you're good to go. It's a real quick fix for what people may need. And I think Robin had something similar to this when I saw her. Now the only thing that this does not have that the Alto did was that control room out. So there's a row, or rather, there's one row of knobs missing from this, and this is that control level or monitor level out. So that's the only difference. Now, here's something kind of clever that you could do, is if you actually you could actually run separate outputs from your control room out to a bass rig. So, right, so if you're looking at this mixer, right, looking at this one, you can actually run your bass side into channel 2, right? Now imagine you've got your monitor send here up, so that it's actually, you've got this plugged into like a bass amp. So now all of a sudden you've got like separate output for a subwoofer, which is pretty clever. I never tried that while I had this mixer, but I've been wanting to consider revisiting that to get more low end, or to have kind of a separate output. So it's almost like you'd have a whole separate output here, which is again kind of an interesting use of a small mixer. So let's compare the costs. This is $60, right? It's a pretty good deal. And this
by 4 here.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sorry. So now, yeah, and Behringer's pretty big out in Europe, right? In Israel and in your part of town there, right? I mean, like Behringer's a little more readily available in Europe.
Sorry?
Behringer is not quite as expensive as other like U.S. based or Japanese based products.
Here in Israel, they're quite expensive.
Really? Okay.
In this one, yeah, this one could cost about 3 or 4 times $60. Yeah, it costs here about 200, maybe 150. Yeah.
Well, call me up. I'll buy one and ship it to you. Okay? How's that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. On to the next one. Okay, so this is the big boy. This was, I thought this was going to be the answer to all my problems. And right, it's got 4 these XLR inputs right here. You can pad it. It's got a high pass filter. So this is the Yamaha MG10XU. So this is one that Emmett was using, or something similar to this. It was a Yamaha 8-channel mixer. So Emmett uses an 8-channel mixer. Same kind of feature set here with these RCA ends. This one's got built-in effects, right? So you've got all these different effects. I turned on reverb hall number 1, and basically it never moved from there. This has stereo outputs. This also takes XLR outputs, which is pretty cool. Same kind of setup with a effects send and stereo return and a separate phone jack. So not a lot of like new functionality there. It also has phantom power, and this has kind of an extended amount of inputs. This also has these little like 1-knob compressors, which at first I was really like stoked about, But then as I started moving towards a more kind of pedal-based kind of configuration, I became kind of less stoked with them. They didn't introduce a lot of noise, but it wasn't really what I was after. But it was still very nice to have, right? So if you go to a gig with this and a powered speaker, like you're in business. Like this is everything that you'll need. It's got EQ, it's got a little bit of compression, it's got a little bit of reverb built into it, so it was pretty versatile. It was just too big, right? So, but it was great when I gigged with. We did a stick night with this as well, and it was much easier because there was just more space. There was more space on it, and also I didn't have to bring an external pedal to kind of get a little bit of reverb. It was all built into the board, and I gotta say, Yamaha makes these pretty well. Like they're made pretty well, and they're fairly well documented and that sort of thing. So, like all these mixers, they're pretty solid. I didn't have any problems with it. It was just and they have a smaller version of it. They have a 6-channel version of this, and you'll see also. Actually, I'll go back to this. How they they call this a 10-channel mixer, right? But if you're counting lines, right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you've got these stereo inputs again. So here's 5 and 6, here's 7 and 8, and here's 9 and 10. And then you'll notice that there's kind of some decreased functionality right here for lines 6 through 10. And then also, this has a MIDI out, but the USB is only active on channels 9 and 10. Right, so that's kind of sneaky. So that means whatever you want to record, right, has to come through these 2 channels right here. And then there's a MIDI port that is that's on the back of the unit. Here, I'll see if I can capture it. Yeah, it's right here. So you can see here, that's where the MIDI 2.0 is right there. And I've read people online complaining about the MIDI on this one, so probably not a good feature to have. I'm also going to talk about inputs here. So all of these units so far use wall warts, and the Yamaha is also kind of exceptionally kind of annoying because it uses this proprietary kind of power jack, which I'm really not a fan of. What I would love to have, right, is something you plug an amp into, just like a standard IEC power cable.
Yeah.
That's just a dream I had. Okay, so here's a smaller mixer that's I think the most, well, let's look at the price on the Yamaha. So the Yamaha is almost $200, right? So that's pretty expensive. You could probably find out on eBay for a little bit less. Here is the Mackie Pro FX V2 4-channel mixer. So let me try this again here. I really liked this mixer. I was like very intrigued by it. It's got now you can see here they've got 2 inputs that have the XLRs or the 1/4 inch inputs, and that one of these has this high Z input if you're plugging a guitar or a bass directly into it. But that's only on one channel, right? So it's like if you're a stick player, it's like, well, you can't have both, right? Like, so that immediately was like kind of a bummer. I was like pretty bummed about that. It has a gain and level at the beginning of the kind of the cycle here. It's got built-in effects. It's also got this auxiliary out. So you've actually got an effects send on it, which seems kind of like overkill since it has effects built into it. And then what's also kind of missing from this one is the ability to pan left and right. Right, so that's kind of a bummer. This one also has, I think this one also has, it has a monitor out, but it's mono, so you might be able to take this like a TRS out from this, because you can see it's got a separate kind of a pan pot or a pot here for if you're like putting this out into like monitors, right? If you have like a powered speaker, you want to have your drummer hear everything, you can run this from the mixer and that would be the level that he would hear. It's also got EQ, but the EQ is applied across all of it, right? So that's for the entire mix. And you also have the ability to use it post or pre effects, which is pretty clever. But I wouldn't see as much use for this for a stick player because, for one, it has only one of the high Z inputs, but it is compact, and they make great products, right? Like Mackie makes really good mixers, and this one also, zoom in again, this one doesn't claim to have like 6 channels, 8 channels, right? This really is just a 4-channel mixer. And it looks pretty solid, but it's like these little things with like the high Z gain or the EQ that's applied across the band, as opposed to having like a third band of EQ or being able to get some separation with left and right. Things you need to look for, right?
Wait,
Sorry,
can
did
I
you
just
want
point something? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to point something. I think it's common about all 4 mixers. It's faders versus knobs. I always prefer faders for 2 reasons. One is you can visually see the volume of each track. It's very easy to see with you're using faders, and also you can always use this kind of motion, which you can always increase or decrease the volume 3, 4 channels at once. Which I always find it difficult with these different small knobs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, totally, completely, especially if you're moving it with your foot, right? I mean, if you've got it on the ground, right? Like if you're playing, like while you're playing, the idea for me at least is to have the mixer on the ground, be able to move with the foot. That is not an option. And if you have a fader, you can at least kind of fake it, or you can grab a couple all at once, like you said, move them around. So yeah.
I can show Guillermo mixer just for a second.
Sure. Yeah. See if you can share that up. I'd be curious to see it. So up on the left, there's a little white arrow. It's got a green background.
Yeah, the thing is, I have 2 screens here.
Okay, yeah, it'll ask you. Usually I just share everything, and right, hopefully you don't have anything inappropriate up that we'll see, Buzz. I'd say just share the application.
Okay.
So this is the mixer for a Guillermo Cetus.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a Roland. Okay.
Roland VM3100.
Okay. So this probably involves a little bit of programming on his part, where he's got sounds that he configures within it. Oh, I see, and you've got scenes. Okay. Does this have built-in effects?
Very small. Very small. It's very small. It fits in the 19-inch rack.
Yeah, that's nice.
Still have space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we used this for the entire Mallorca meetings.
Gotcha.
And shows. So I find it very useful, and it has faders.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you probably had like 2 inputs for each channel, so you could fit a stick player, like left and right hand, into one channel.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty handy.
Options are endless. I mean, so many options.
Yeah, so we'll probably have a second show. I'd like to get Rob Hayner definitely involved, and definitely you as well, Rob, on a conversation with larger mixers. So.
I know they have mixers that you can download, like an iPad app, that you can walk around and you can actually change the settings. So if I'm doing a gig and I want to hear my mix changed, I can actually change it on the fly instead of having the sound guy do it for me. So that's an option, right? But I think you're talking like 3 or 4 times the money, right?
Right. So one of the ones that I looked at that Ollie, so Olivier. Olivier, who's out on the Stickist, he uses one of these, I think it's QSC. So I have a QSC K12, which I really like. And I saw Kevin had one, and Emmett had one, and Rob Martino had one, and I think I'll get one too. And I kind of fought it, and I was like, well, I don't want to have one because they have one, but they have one for a reason. They sound great. QSC also makes this live, or this monitor. It's very unique. It's like $900. It's not cheap, but it's got something like 10 inputs. It's got stereo inputs. There's all kinds of like functionality wrapped into it. Digital effects. You can route outputs. You've got like 4 different outputs. So if you want to use that kind of surround sound, and you can. What I liked about that immediately off, was being able to route the bass to a separate amp, but still have the same effects. And so. add compression, reverb, and echo and all that stuff. But then I got back into, like, now I'm programming the effects again. What I really want is I want something that's more tactile. I want to be able to like have knobs and buttons on a pedal that I can see. That's what I'm used to, and that's where I'm most comfortable. But QSC makes a pretty wicked mixer, like you're talking about. But it's not like the one Alesis makes one. I think that's the one you might be talking about, Rob, where the iPad actually like clicks into it, and then it becomes you've got these faders and these monitor that you can tweak. Your basically your iPad becomes the mixer, which is pretty clever. You have an iPad, right? If you got an Android, you got like a tab or something like that, you know, maybe next time. Okay, so well, probably what I'll do is we'll keep this one kind of short. I'll conclude with the mixer that I ended up going with, which I believe is the Mackie Mix 8. And I'll probably do a little kind of close-up on my pedal board and show you how it's configured, because I looked at a lot of mixers before finally arriving at this one. And it was only through thinking really long and hard about what I wanted from the mixer that I was able to find the right mixer. So my requirements for the mixer is that it had to be as small as possible. It had to be the smallest mixer, because I'm actually putting it on my pedal board. So because what I have basically, right, two channels coming out, and then I'm splitting the melody side. Right, so now I've split the melody side, and then after I split the melody side, I actually split it again. So now I've got actually 4 channels. I've got 2 sets of stereo sounds, and then I've got 5. Then I've got the bass sound, which is just mono. So am I going to run 5 cables back to like an amplifier, like on the back line? No, the idea is that I run it all into the mixer. It's mixed on the pedal board, and then I just run stereo out. So then it's all summed up on the mixer, summed up on the board, and then just 2 cables go back to 2 separate K12s. Everything's mixed on the board. So here is the final mixer in our comparison. And I think I'm sharing. Am I sharing?
No.
I'm not sharing. Okay, I'm going to share now. Let's share. Whoa. Look out. Okay, so this is the one that I ultimately settled on. And I did give up on this monitor mix on the Alto. So the Alto had this kind of second row of pots here that actually allowed you to have a separate monitor out, which controlled the level of what was going to the control room out. And I had kind of dreamed of like running the bass through that, and it's almost like having a separate output for it. But so I gave up. I kind of let that go. So this mixer has here also I'll zoom in on it. So they call this an 8-channel mixer, which is kind of, I didn't really appreciate that, but it didn't matter because it's a Mackie mixer, and it's pretty solid. So they call it the Mix 8. There's a couple different kind of flavors of this. They've got like a 12-channel and a 5-channel. This one in particular was intriguing because it had exactly what I needed, almost exactly what I needed. It had an auxiliary out, so I'm able to run an external effect, right? So that means I run it out. Let's see, I run the auxiliary send here, and then I can return it in stereo. I'm only running it mono. It's got balance, so it's got left and right, which means I can move things to the left and right as I see fit, and then it's got 3 channels of EQ. It has a separate output for the control room, but you can't control the level of the control room here. So that's that one knob that's missing from this, which was a little bit of a bummer. What made this most appealing was its very small frame. So, and then of course, it's like they're giving them away. They're like $75. So sorry, Boaz, it's probably like $300 for you. But again, if you want to order something, man, call me. Let me know. This mixer does what?
There's a voltage problem here.
There's a voltage problem. That's right. That's right.
I'm not sure if it's compatible all over the world.
So this one, so like, yeah, speaking of power, so what I don't and can't stand about these, there's always something about power, is again, that kind of wall wart, that kind of proprietary power that you need. You can't use like a standard IEC power. So what I'll do is I'll attempt to show you actually. I'll see if I can bring my laptop over. So I'm going to stop sharing. So I'm trying to think of the dimensions on this one. I might have it. The dimensions on this it's just about like 8 by 9.5. Okay, so that was kind of what it came out to right here in comparison with the size. It's definitely, with the exception of the Behringer 802, the smallest one that we're looking at. And so that was again a big selling point for me. So what I'll do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Go back to this. Right, what I want for them is to use one of these, right? Just standard IEC. Wouldn't that be great? All right, so I'll show you on the board how I'm using how I mixer, and I've got it now engaged, so it'll take just an extra minute to kind of get things all lined up here. Okay, can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, I've got the mixer kind of off there to the side.
Just try to all this. Yeah.
Sorry. Try to. This is awkward. Okay, there we go. That's how I'll do it. Okay, so I've got my volume pedal right here. I've got a volume pedal. I've got a looper. I've got the Big Sky, and then I've got this Strymon kind of Lex pedal, which is kind of like a rotary pedal. Those are the pedals that are on top. And I'll probably I'm hoping to do a separate session where people kind of show off their pedal boards. I've done a lot of work on this one. So this pedal board, it's actually Canadian made, right? So our Canadian guests here will be delighted to hear that. You can buy these inputs right here for the side. Right, so you can see here where things are plugged in. I've got the bass and the melody side plugged in here, and then they route. I guess we'll just go through it right now. See on the bottom, and it looks like my friend's cat Waffles wants a piece of the action here. Can you guys see this? Sorry. So it comes in, I've got a couple pedals on the bottom here. Now the melody side comes in through that white pedal right there, that exotic SP compressor. Mm-hmm. But that red, if you see that red Hall of Fame pedal right there, that's the reverb that I'm using for the board, actually. So that's what that auxiliary goes in and out of. So now I'll come back up to the top here. Watch out, Waffles. Move, cat. Sorry, this is a little shaky. So then, basically, what happens is that when it comes into this pedal right here, it gets switched, right? So this has actually got one input but two outputs. When it comes out, one of the outputs comes into the Big Sky and comes out stereo, which means it's going into channels 5 and 6. Now, I'd like for it to come out of stereo out of the Lex, but I didn't have a cable that was long enough, right? So normally it would come out of this, come out of the Lex stereo, and that would come into channel 3 and 4. And then my bass comes into channel 1 mono. And so what I've done is now I've got 2 stereo effects, and then my bass channel, which is 5 channels altogether. And then right here, using these 2 jacks, all right, sorry, this is impossible. Using these two, I'm actually going out to that little Hall of Fame Mini on the other side of the board, so I can determine how much reverb I want, right? So on the melody side, I want a little more. On the bass side, I don't want much. And kind of the last, you can use a low-pass filter on your reverb so that all those frequencies kind of flow through without affecting the bass sound. So anyways, that's how I'm using mixer on my pedal board. I know that Don Schiff also uses it on his pedal board as well. So here's an application for, so rather than running like all 5 channels back to amps, right, everything gets summed up here, and then these 2 channels right here, right, that's what goes to the amp. That's what goes to the amp. And so I've got this lush sound on the melody side, with two sets of stereo effects for two different signal pads. So I'll probably do something kind of a separate program when we start to look at people's pedal boards. So I suppose I just wanted to kind of conclude with that. If there's any of the things that you wanted to talk about, like with lessons learned with mixers, or things that you might want to explore with them, I'd love to hear it.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Hey, Gene,
Yeah,
how come you're not? What happened with the HT 500?
right. So I really did like the
Off
HT 500.
topic.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, I think it's a great topic. I think that the HT500 it feels like it was made for the Chapman Stick. The way it's got two separate signal pads, and you know, what I found, I wanted like a different compressor sound. So I'm really sensitive to that. I've tried like so many different pedal compressors. I've tried the Boss compressors. I've tried no less than 4 different DBX rack compressors: the XT, the 160 XT, the 166, the 266, the 160X, which was my favorite. I've tried these like Boss half racks. Wasn't really into it. The CS2, the CS3, Jangle Box, JB Nano, the Keeley 4 knob, and finally, like, I was like, oh, here, I'll try the HT500. I'll see if I like it. 500X. And just the compression, like there was like a red compressor and there's like one other compressor, and I just was like, this is not for me. But really, more importantly, is that I like knobs, like, right? Like I want to be able to like adjust it with my hand and not have to like bank into it and parameter to it. And then like there was so much control that you had with the HT500, and I didn't know how to use it. So like mic placement, the cabinet types, the different types of speakers and things like that. And then it was also, it was pretty big, even though it did so much. I'd just be like at gigs and I'd want to change something, and I couldn't do it. I hadn't invested the time to really learn how to use it, right? I'm not Rob Martina, right, Kevin? I'm sorry, I'm not Rob Martina.
Yeah, the learning curve is pretty steep on it. Like I have to agree. It's there's a lot to be said for stomp boxes, right? And when you can just reach down and twiddle a knob, I do miss that. I do.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah, but I loved the idea of it, man, because it's like the HT500X has 2 separate signal pads for the bass and for the melody side. Man, it's just like, we've been waiting for this, right? I mean, like, that's perfect. That's great.
Can you just show a picture of it? I can't find it anywhere.
It's the Line 6 HT500. So
Line 6.
Line 6 H, like hard drive, HD 500X. And we've done actually a whole separate program. We did like a separate program where we talked just about the HD 500X.
Mm.
So, and it's great. It's powerful. It's got a volume pedal built into it. You can adjust any of the MIDI parameters that you would on a, like if you want to adjust, like if you want to use it as like a, what am I thinking of? Like one of those whammy pedals, you can do that, kind of. You can adjust the rate on a delay. You can adjust the feedback, on a delay or reverb, whatever level.
I mean, multi-effects. I thought you were talking about the mixer. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, this is multi-effects. Yeah, so this was what kind of like drove me into the arms of a mixer solution. And actually, what I'm going to have to do is I talked to Jim Meyer. He uses the same kind of board that I do. He uses he's Canadian, right? He uses that same the Duo 24, which is basically like I don't know the metric equivalent, but it's 12 by 24. So they make one that's 16 by 28, which is the one I'm going to be getting because my Boomerang looper is just massive. It's my newest acquisition. So getting into the looping world. So anyways, that'll do it for mixers. We're going to do another program on like larger mixers, but this was just kind of an idea to kind of think about what it is that you want out of the mixer if you're just using it for the stick. I like the idea of a powered speaker, but I could also use an amplifier with it. because the mixer is passive. It's also small. Like you can sum things very easily if you've got it on the floor next to you right there, and you want to run a stereo sound or you want to run mono. There's just less cables and things to contend with. So, and then if you've got somebody else that doesn't have an amp, like a singer or something like that, or guitarist, they can just plug in and now you're the sound guy. So versatile, fun. All right, so I guess we'll sign off. Boaz, any closing statements here?
No, just learning.
Cool. I'm glad you're here. Rob, sir, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, well, if you do get a new mixer, let us know. I'd love to. Hopefully this helped with just kind of stimulate some thoughts about what you might be looking for if you're looking for a new mixer.
Yep.
Cool, man. Hey, question for you. What are you using for a camera? Your picture is so clear.
The iPad, and then I've got a crappy $100 camera.
Oh, okay. It's working.
Actually, the worst. I've got a little HD camera here, but it's actually the worst of the three.
Oh, okay.
So my iPad actually does the best job for videos.
Okay, yeah, it does look good. Cool. Right.
Oh, you mean like right now?
Yeah.
Oh, this is on my Mac.
Okay. It's very good quality. And Kevin's like, what? You have cats back there? You're in the basement.
I'm in the garage.
The garage. All right, dudes. Well, listen, Kevin, thanks for making it out. And, Kevin and Rob, thanks for that video, man. That was super cool. I really enjoyed that. I know a lot of people did.
Good. I'm glad.
It was fun to do, man.
It was a lot of fun.
Cool, brothers. All right, well, listen, happy Free Hands Friday. We'll do it again, probably in the new year, because next week's what, the 17th? Maybe we can do it again. We'll think if we can something to do next week. Maybe we'll do some stuff on pedals or something like that, or maybe like resolutions or something like that. Maybe something cool like that. All right, happy Free Hands Friday. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.